Welcome to the One in the Many. My name is Arshak Ben-Lian. My purpose with the One in the Many podcast is to explore the process of integration as developmentally formative and therapeutically corrective factor in human psychology. The One in the Many is the study of how conscious life differentiates identity, integrates relation, regulates itself under constraint, and sustains direction through time. Subscribe to the One in the Many podcast and connect with me by writing to abenlian@oneinthemany.net. Long before the first cry of a newborn, before consciousness flickers into awareness, an older and deeper intelligence has already begun its work. This is the intelligence of form, neither conceptual nor volitional, but ordered with a precision that makes the emergence of mind possible. DNA is the first projector of identity. It casts forward the organism into existence, shaping the body as the primary instrument through which the future mind will act. When the embryo begins dividing, its division is guided by a differential reading of the genome. One cell becomes muscle, another nerve, another bone, all generated by the regulatory orchestration carried within the DNA. This differentiation is the biological precursor of the psychological differentiation I describe in the induction, integration, reduction, IIR cycle. The emergence of distinct units of being that can later be integrated into unified function. DNA does not merely instruct the body how to grow, it defines the range of growth that is possible. It establishes the architecture of perception, the capacity to see color, the range of hearing, the density of neural connections that allow memory and emotion. All are projected upward from the genome. DNA supplies the substrate for the very possibility of sensation, making perception itself a downstream effect of molecular identity. In this sense, DNA is the first view the universe takes of itself through the organism. It defines what can be perceived before perception exists. What can be felt before feeling emerges? What can be thought before thought becomes a possibility? This is projection in its original form, a movement from biological identity to experiential potential, from the one, the genome, to the many, the systems of the living body. No idea, no value, no intention can exist without the body that DNA builds. Consciousness is scaffolded on the structures DNA creates. Sensory nerves tuned for specificity. Cortical layers arranged for hierarchies of representation. Metabolic cycles calibrated for the energetics of attention. The body's identity is not arbitrary. It is engineered by DNA to sustain the future self. Thus, the first projection is foundational. DNA projects forward the conditions for life, perception, and eventually meaning. It is the blueprint of possibility, the quiet, recursive pattern that sets the stage for the drama of consciousness. When consciousness emerges, another kind of projection ignites. This projection does not operate through chemical sequences, but through awareness, attention, imagination, intention, and value. The mind begins to cast patterns downward into the body, shaping its activity from above. This is the moment the organism becomes a self, a being capable of choosing the direction of its own becoming. The second projection takes place in a different plane but mirrors the first. If DNA is silent and automatic, consciousness is deliberate and volitional. If DNA projects structure, consciousness projects meaning. If DNA gives the body identity, consciousness gives the self identity. Thoughts, like genes, are patterns that can be activated, inhibited, or repeated. A sustained belief shapes neural topology just as gene regulation shapes tissue formation. Repeated focus strengthens a circuit just as repeated transcription strengthens a molecular pathway. The mind becomes a sculptor of the nervous system, altering synaptic weights, modifying autonomic tones, even influencing gene expression through epigenetic signaling. Emotions mobilize the body. Values alter endocrine rhythms. Trauma contracts the musculature and freezes the autonomic patterns. Reflection, forgiveness, understanding, and integration relax those patterns and reopen physiological range. Meditation regulates immune function. Long-term purpose reorganizes motivational circuits. The mind continuously remotes the body in the same spirit that the DNA first molded it, through pattern, repetition, and directionality. This second projection, mind to body, is biological fact. The genes that respond to stress, bonding, learning, memory consolidation, metabolic efficiency, and neural growth are activated or silenced by psychological states. The self speaks to its own selves, not in language, but in patterns of neural firing, hormones, and attention. Consciousness becomes a partner in shaping the organism from which it emerged. DNA projects the architecture of life. Consciousness projects the direction of life. These two projections, bind body to mind, mind to body, are not linear but cyclical. They form a recursive circuit of identity, an ongoing exchange between structure and meaning. DNA initializes the organism, consciousness personalizes it. DNA offers potential, consciousness converts potential into actuality. The body organizes sensation, the mind organizes significance. This is the deepest correspondence between biology and psychology. Both generate unity through processes of differentiation and integration. DNA differentiates cells into tissues, integrates tissues into organs, organizes organs into systems, and binds the whole into a stable biological identity. Consciousness differentiates perceptions into concepts, integrates concepts into knowledge, organizes knowledge into values, and binds the whole into a stable psychological identity. The organism is thus a dual projector, a self that continuously reconstitutes itself. Not merely a body, not merely a mind, but a field of reciprocal projection. The body projects what is possible. The mind projects what is meaningful. Their interaction produces what becomes actual. This is the temporal self I have defined throughout the one in the many. The stable identity across time achieved by recursive integration of experience, meaning, and action. The organism becomes not a fixed thing, but an ongoing synthesis of material potential and conceptual direction. Those two projections evolve across the 4 developmental stages: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and mature adulthood. In childhood, the first projection dominates. DNA-driven maturation shapes sensory systems, neural pruning, and motor development. The mind is receptive, absorbing the world through biological channels preconfigured by the genome. Consciousness is present, but not yet directive. It rides on the momentum of the body's biological projection. In adolescence, the two projections clash and integrate. Hormonal cascades driven by DNA meet the emerging values, ideals, and contradictions of the mind. Identity formation becomes a negotiation between inherited structures and chosen direction. Biological tempo accelerates, psychological meaning intensifies. This is the crucible in which the second projection gathers strength. In adulthood, the second projection becomes primary. The mind guides career, relationships, purpose, values, and creative work. It shapes bodily health through lifestyle, emotional habits, cognitive integrations, and stress patterns. This is the stage where the upward projection of DNA meets the downward projection of volition most dynamically. In mature adulthood, a synthesis emerges. The body slows. The mind compensates by increasing efficiency, wisdom, and integrative awareness. The projections become subtler, but more unified. Consciousness honors its biological limits and uses its accumulated values to elevate the organism's remaining potential into fulfillment. Integration becomes more important than expansion. Meaning becomes more important than novelty. Across these stages, identity emerges as the continuity of reciprocal projection, the one carried through the many, the self carried through time. The deepest insight of the one in the many becomes clear here. Projection is the bridge between volition and biology, between the intentional and the material. Consciousness cannot alter DNA's sequence. It can alter DNA's expression. DNA cannot generate conceptual values. It can generate the neural substrate in which values become possible. The body projects form. The mind projects meaning. And integration is the unity of both. In this unity lies the very meaning of volition, the ability to direct one's own becoming. Volition is not supernatural nor mystical. It is the biological privilege granted by the genome's complexity and the nervous system's plasticity. The organism is built to be self-directed. DNA does not merely allow choice, it anticipates it by building a brain capable of projection, reflection, and recursive integration through its mind. What emerges from this architecture is not a duality, but a synergy. Identity as a process of continual self-projection across time. The body shapes the mind, that shapes the body, that shapes the mind. Integration is the harmonization of this cycle. Disintegration is its interruption. Misintegration is its distortion. Flourishing is its successful recursion. DNA, mind, body, emotion, metabolism, value, and volition are not separate domains. They are modes of one continuous process. The organism is the one, its functions are the many. Each projection, from molecule to feeling, from belief to heartbeat, is a manifestation of unity expressing itself through differentiation. Identity is the stable unity projected across time through the reciprocal exchange of biological, psychological, and conceptual integrations. The self is therefore not a fixed entity, but a projection of identity across the axis of time, stabilized by integration, energized by meaning, directed by volition, grounded in biology, and elevated by consciousness. The genome gives the first identity. Experience gives the second. Meaning gives the third. Integration unifies them all. This is what it means to be a human being, a living bridge between the physical and the conceptual, condensing the infinite motion of the universe into the finite, directed motion of a self. Related to the projection of identity is the understanding of order. I am inspired by Ron Pisaturo's book, A Validation of Knowledge, and his focus on logical order. You can listen to the interviews with Ron on this podcast, or better yet, read his book to gain a clear and deeper understanding of his validation of knowledge and focus on order. Psychology has long attempted to explain human experience by describing its contents, sensations, emotions, beliefs, behaviors, yet it has rarely posed to formalize the conditions under which experience can be validly ordered, causally meaningful, and truthfully expressed. The result has been a discipline rich in phenomenology and mechanism, but impoverished in structure. What has been missing in a unified account of how consciousness projects itself into the world, how that projection becomes ordered, and how such order acquires both validity and resilience across time. At its base, human experience is the interaction between conscious awareness and existence. Consciousness does not passively receive reality, nor does it arbitrarily impose meaning upon it. Rather, it projects selectively, directionally, and purposefully into a field of existence structured by identity and causality. This projection is the fundamental act by which perception is organized, inference is extended, and action is initiated. To experience is to project oneself into a world and to receive feedback from that engagement. Projection theory, properly understood within the one in the many, names this bidirectional dynamic. Consciousness projects hypotheses, expectations, meanings, and intentions forward. Existence responds through constraint, resistance, confirmation, or refutation. Every psychological episode is therefore a projection reduction loop, whether conscious or implicit. The integrity of experience depends on how this loop is ordered. Order enters precisely because neither consciousness nor existence presents itself as a flat totality. Conscious awareness is limited in bandwidth and scope. Existence is layered, causal, and hierarchically structured. Order is the means by which finite awareness navigates an infinitely differentiated world. It is not given whole, but constructed, stepwise, selectively, and under constraint. Yet not all order is equal. Psychology historically failed to distinguish between order as arrangement and order as validity. This distinction is decisive. A narrative may be coherent and emotionally compelling, yet existentially unanchored. Another may be logically sound, yet too thin to endure stress. To resolve this, the one in the many introduces order integrity and order density as two inseparable dimensions of psychological order. Order integrity concerns whether a projected order is properly formed. An order has integrity when it is logically consistent, existentially anchored, objectively verifiable, and contextually proportional. Integrity answers the question, is this projection a legitimate expression of reality? Without integrity, projection becomes distortion, fantasy, ideology, or delusion. Historically, psychology's scientific aspiration aimed often implicitly at this dimension, seeking methods to bind subjective experience to objective fact. But integrity alone does not secure psychological health. An order may be valid yet fragile, collapsing under emotional load, novelty, or stress. This reveals the second dimension, order density. Density refers to the accumulated integration supporting an order, the number of successful projection verification cycles, the depth of abstraction consolidated, the degree of embodiment and automatization achieved. Density is the mass of order, the stored energy of prior integrations. Order, like structure in nature, possesses a density gradient. Shallow order, recently formed, weakly integrated, fails under perturbation and leaves the individual vulnerable to disintegration. Dense order resists collapse, but if formed without integrity, it hardens into misintegration, rigid, self-sealing systems that project confidently yet falsely. This distinction explains a central paradox in psychology, why some false beliefs are astonishingly resilient, while some true insights evaporate. Projection theory provides the missing causal glue between integrity and density. Every projection tests an order against reality. When projection is followed by reduction, feedback, correction, or reintegration, density increases only if integrity is preserved. When projection is insulated from reduction, density may still increase, but at the cost of validity. Thus, projection is the causal mechanism by which order gains or loses integrity and density. This reframes causality in psychology. Causality is not merely an external chain of events, nor a purely internal attribution. It is the structured relationship between projection and constraint across time. A causal account of experience is valid when it correctly orders projections and responses in a way that preserves identity in both consciousness and existence. A psychologically healthy causal narrative is one that can be projected forward, tested, revised, and densified without distortion. The valid expression of experience, then, is not a static report of inner states. It is an ordered projection that faithfully tracks causal relations while remaining open to verification. Expression becomes pathological when order is either too thin to hold or too dense to revise. This insight dissolves long-standing oppositions in psychology between subjectivity and objectivity, meaning and mechanism, narrative and science. Historically, psychology hovered around this synthesis without achieving it. Freud identified projection but lacked formal integrity constraints. Behaviorism enforced verification but denied interior density. Cognitive science refined order but underestimated consolidation. Neuroscience revealed mechanisms of density without a theory of validity. The one in the many integrates these trends by recognizing that projection is the engine, order the structure, integrity the constraint, and density the stabilizer. This integration marks a conceptual turning point. Psychology can now articulate why development, therapy, culture, and even AI systems succeed or fail, not because of content alone, but because of the quality and density of the orders they project into the world. Weak order collapses. Dense but invalid order corrupts. Integrated order, high integrity, high density, positive gradient, supports flourishing. In this light, the task of psychology is redefined. It is not merely to explain behavior or interpret meaning, but to cultivate the capacity for valid, dense, and revisable projection across the lifespan. To achieve this is to align consciousness with causality, not by mirroring the world perfectly, but by ordering experience in a way that remains faithful to existence while sustaining the self through time. Hence, psychological health is the capacity to project order into existence with integrity and sufficient density to endure reality's constraints without distortion. This is the one in the many. The principle of life is the process of integration from a single cell to an ideal human being. The story of life unfolds through integration, from a single percept to a library of knowledge. Through virtue, reason, honesty, independence, selfishness, productivity, you set your values, purpose, to achieve self-esteem and happiness. Through time and energy, from induction to integration to reduction, the smallest particle unifies matter, and the highest purpose unifies your life. You, the one in the many, matter. May you integrate your life with value-driven days.